Hi, my name is Russell Bowyer, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to increase business profits. Many business owners are frustrated. They don't know where to begin with how to increase their sales, but more importantly, how to increase profits. So what I'm going to talk you through today is the numbers that you would need to focus on in a very straightforward way. But more importantly, I'm going to talk to you about the power of leverage and the combined effect of making changes to each one of these numbers. And in this case, I'm going to be talking to you about a bakery business and how to increase the profits of that business. So without further ado, let me just jump across to a sheet I prepared earlier on with the numbers for that business. So the first number we have is the number of customers the business has, which in this case is 4,684. The average customer spend is £289 at present, and that's the amount customers spend each time they visit the business. The next number is the number of times they return to purchase, and in this case it's 26 times, so effectively once every 2 weeks. The next number is a percentage, and that percentage represents those customers that never return again for whatever reason. They've gone to the competition, you've upset them in some way or other. The following number is your audience reach or number of visitors, and this can be made up of visits to your website, Facebook visitors, number of people that read magazines that you perhaps advertise in, and so on. And in this case, that's 10,000. The next percentage is the capture rate of visitors, or of that audience that you're reaching out to, the people that visit your website, the people that you engage with on Facebook and social media and so on. And in this case, it's 0.8%. Then the following number is the conversion rate of those visitors and converting those into customers. So in other words, of the number of visitors you get to your website and so on, 8.8% of those are interested in your offering, and of those people, only 45% of them actually become customers. So now if we take all those numbers and multiply them up, what we get to is a total sales figure over the 12 months of 335,100. I've also put in there, you'll also need these two extra figures, the cost of sales, if that's what your business has, and the overheads, which will leave the profit that your business is making at this point in time. So let's now have a look at the green numbers down the right hand side. These numbers represent a doubling of each of those numbers in the left hand column. So for example, what we've assumed is that the average customer spend jumps from £2.89 to £5.78. And there are ways and means of doing that. There are ways of engaging with customers, implementing systems to actually improve your average customer spend. We've all been to McDonald's, or most of us have, where when you actually go to order, they ask you, would you like fries with that, or would you like to go large? That's a process that they use to increase the average spend, or the average transaction value. The next number, we've increased the number of times customers return from 26 to 52. And again, there are ways and means. It's about engaging with customers. They're implementing perhaps loyalty schemes and so on, that we could actually improve that from 26 to 52. The next number we talked about was those customers that never return again. And we're assuming here that we have a 10% defection rate. So instead of doubling it, we've halved it. So we've actually reduced it from 10% down to 5%. The next one, we've assumed that we can increase our visitors from 10,000 to 20,000. Let's assume we did some work on our website. We did some SEO work and we got more traffic to the website. And that's very easily done. The next one is, again, we've increased or doubled our capture rate of those visitors to our website on Facebook and so on. And that can be done by changing the website, making it more engaging, making it more customer focused and so on. So we've gone from 0.8 to 1.6%. And finally, we've doubled that may seem like a big jump again in that case from 45% to 90%, but I would suggest in this case that 45% is very low. I would at least expect to have over 50% or ideally around about 60%. But why not target 90% of converting the visitors or the people that engage with you from your website by 90%, so only 10% don't actually purchase from you. And those 10% may be people that weren't really interested in any case. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump across to a piece of software which is called Increased Profit Software, where here what I've done is I've plugged all those numbers in. So you'll see at the top our sales of 335,100, cost of sales and so on. And at this point in time, this business, or this bakery business in this case, is making £28,975, which is livable, but it's not a huge amount of money. And then running down, you'll see that I've put in the number of opening customers, average transaction value, or the average spend that your customers spend at the moment, or in this case, the bakery business spend at the moment, number of times they return, and so on. So the numbers on this sheet simply reflect the numbers that I had on the previous one. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to the next sheet, which is a working sheet, and plug in all of those increased numbers and see what effect that has, not only on our sales, but also on our profits. And you'll be quite amazed, actually, at the compound effect or the power of leverage of having all of those numbers working together. And you'll see the impact you can have by focusing on these numbers. So let me just jump across to the software and I'll plug those figures in. You can see what I mean. Right, so here we are. So what I'm going to do, I'm just jump across to the workings, and then I'm going to plug these numbers in. So the first number that I have on my sheet was changing my average transaction value, or the amount on average your customers spend each time. And I was going to increase that, double it to £5.78. So already, if you look at the top there, our sales have increased to £670,000, which is an increase of 335,000. But if you look at the profit, that's increased by over £200,000 to £230,000. And that's only adjusting one of these numbers. So the next number in that list was changing the number of times customers return. At the moment, they come once every 2 weeks. Let's assume we can get them to come once a week. So I'm going to change that to 52. Now, you'll see that our sales have now increased to over £1 million, and our profit has increased to £632. The next number was to reduce our customer defection rate, or customers that never return. And we said we were going to reduce that from 10% down to 5%. And now you can see that had a marginal effect, and our net profit is up to £654,000. The next number was to increase our audience reach, or the number of visitors to our website or Facebook engagement. And we said that we're going to increase that from 10,000 to 20,000. That had a slight increase. We're now up to £657,000 profit. The next one is to adjust the visitor to lead conversion rate. In other words, how many of those visitors actually engage with us and are more interested. They don't just come to the website and disappear. They actually engage with us. So that's going to be increased to 1.6%. The next number is to have a look at our conversion of those visitors into customers. And we said we were going to increase that to 90%. So by changing the visitor conversion rate, which effectively become leads or prospects, and then changing the prospects to customer percentage rate, our sales are now showing at 1.4 million. And that's a massive jump from 335,000 up to 1.4 million. And that's an increase of 322%, or in pound terms, £1 million. We've also taken our net profit from 28,000, or just under 29,000, to 677,000, which is over £648,000 increase. Now, I recognise it in some cases with the amount of increase that we've got here, we're bound to have increased costs because you've got more customers, and with those extra customers, in this case, we can see that we've got new customers of 288. So we started with 4,684 customers, and at the end of the year, because there's obviously some that are defected, we've ended up with 4,737. We're going to have to probably have more staff. We may even need to, depending on the size of the premises, increase the size of the premises. However, I'm pretty certain that the increases that you'll have to make to your staffing and your premises costs are unlikely to exceed the additional profit you've got here of £648,000. So even if we put in extra overheads, let's assume £250,000, just to pick a figure, we've still got a profit increase of just shy of £400,000. So there you have it. That's the power of leverage, of combining the increases or changes of all your various factors that come together to create your turnover or your sales in your business. It's important to understand what we've just done here, because most businesses get stuck not knowing where to start, which figure to work on. Do I change my advertising? Do I increase my advertising? Do I do a bit of SEO on my website? Do I increase my prices? Do I reduce my prices? Etc., etc. By looking at your figures in this way, you really become focused and you really become targeted. So what happens is your mind will start to go to work and start to ask how questions, or what do I need to do in order to achieve those targets. You don't necessarily have to work on the bigger numbers, i.e. the turnover and the profit of, in this case was just shy of £400,000. You work on each one of those numbers. So say, for example, the average spend doubled from £289 to £578. You just need to ask how questions. How do I get my customers that visit me to spend a little bit more each time they come? And by gradually increasing the amount they spend and work your way towards the £5.78, that will have the impact on your sales, but more importantly on your profits. So what you'll need to do is work on each one of these numbers. So for example, taking the number of times customers return, reach out to your customers, engage with them to get them to come back to you more often, give them incentives to want to come back to you, and so on. And you can work your way through all these numbers. Now, it may be that you won't be able to necessarily double each one of your metrics that we've gone through here, but by setting targets, you'll work towards them. And more often than not, when people have worked with this software, and myself in my own businesses, what happens is you set a target, and because you're working towards that target, you often exceed it. So let me ask you a question. What would happen if you put in double the average amount that customers spend? But what would happen if you exceeded that and you tripled it? What would happen if you really engage with your customers, and instead of coming once a week, they came twice a week, and so on? So it's to be open to questions. But I think the important thing here is this gives you the focus. So you're focusing on each of the numbers, and then you start to ask how questions. And I always encourage you to engage with your staff. Get your employees together and brainstorm ideas and say, right, okay, what we want to do, we want to increase the average amount customers spend each time. We want to increase the number of times they come each year or each week or whatever it happens to be. Get creative. Your employees will have some great ideas. And the important thing is employees love to work with their own ideas. Engage with your customers. Think about doing a customer advisory board. I remember when I ran one of those for the very first time for one of my businesses. It's quite a scary prospect of sitting with your customers and asking them to give you feedback. And in my case, I wasn't even in the room. I had a facilitator do it for me. I left my customers with this facilitator. Bear in mind, there were lots of customers all sitting next to each other. And one of the things that I've always been left with that came out of that was that customers were actually telling me that I should put my prices up. I never expected that. So there may be some nuggets that you could get from your customers too. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. There, below the video, there is a bit more information about the software that we've been working on here. So all I did was I plugged those numbers into a piece of software which is called Increase Profit Software. There's a link if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're actually on the page of the website. Please have a read, and if you've got any questions, pop a comment below on either the website or on YouTube, and I'll be more than happy to help. And I hope you've taken something from this, that there's a real possibility that you can increase your business profits by increasing your sales and focusing or targeting on your key numbers that go towards making up your sales. Thank you very much for listening. My name is Russell Bowyer and my business is bowraven.com.